Good evening, everyone. My name is James Langer. I'm the digital content manager for channel3000.com, joining you streaming live now to go over some of the election results as they come in now. Polls closed about 45, almost 50 minutes ago, and we're starting to see some significant reportable election results come in over at channel3000.com. So what we're going to do here is kind of just live update a lot of these races that we've been following. Obviously, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, the big one on the top of everybody's ticket this go around, but also Madison mayoral race, some Madison Common Council seats, as well as some referendum questions and everything that we've covered in the weeks leading up to the election. We want to give you those live updates too, to update those stories that we've originally done. So first of all, I wanted to start with the Supreme Court's race. Obviously, a lot of eyes trained on that one just because of the implications that we could see statewide for that race. Obviously, as we've reported before, the balance of power of the Wisconsin Supreme Court really in the balance here and on the line here for this race, depending on who wins. Of course, the conservatives on the court have a 4-3 majority now, but should Janet Protasiewicz win, that would shift the balance of power to the liberal side of the court, which would have some far-reaching implications on possible future lawsuits over, say, Wisconsin's abortion ban or accused gerrymandering when it comes to the state's electoral maps, even maybe possibly Act 10. So obviously this is really something that could shift the balance of power in Wisconsin, and it's something that is drawing national attention even. So I'm going to pull up our results page over at channel3000.com. If you haven't been following along, you can go to channel3000.com. On the homepage, you should see a button there to follow all of the election results and the races that we're following. We're following more than 100 races this go around, so obviously a very, very busy spring election with lots to talk about even outside of that Supreme Court race. So let's take a look at the numbers, where they stand right now. Again, a little less than an hour after polls closed. So these are the latest numbers from the Associated Press on the Supreme Court race. You see Janet Protasiewicz here holding a pretty sizable lead of about 15%, with 57% of the votes counted. Now, obviously important to remember that there's still a lot of votes out there left to be counted. Just because somebody is up big now doesn't mean that will be the case at the end of the night once we get to 100% of the votes counted. But obviously this is something that Democrats in the state are probably very happy to see, especially considering how much support the Protasiewicz campaign has had from the Democratic Party in the state. Of course, lots of money on the Kelly side as well from conservative groups. So this was, as we've reported, the most expensive state Supreme Court race in history, not just for Wisconsin, but in the entire country. The most expensive Supreme Court race in history. That's kind of the indicator of how important a lot of people inside the state and outside of the state, frankly, saw this race. So a lot of eyes on this race here as well. As we go down the list, we've got these other races that we're getting results from the Associated Press from, including Court of Appeals there. You see the results there. Sarah Geenan with a lead over Bill Brash right now, about 64% of those votes in, leading by about a 2-1 margin, or 2/3 of the votes there. Another important race to keep our eyes on tonight. This is the Wisconsin State Senate District 8. So this is a Senate district that's based outside of Milwaukee. It's a Milwaukee suburb. You might be saying, why is a Madison station covering a Milwaukee suburb state Senate district race? Fair question. The issue with this race, it's a special election. It's to fill a vacant Senate seat. And again, what's on the line here is a possible supermajority in the state Senate. So if the Republican wins in this race, Dan Knodel, that would give Republicans a supermajority in the Senate. That would allow them to do things like impeach other members of the government. And we're just hearing now that the AP is actually just called the Supreme Court race for Janet Protasiewicz. So this is frankly pretty surprising. Less than an hour after the polls close at about 8:54, the Associated Press calling the race for Janet Protasiewicz, which means that the Wisconsin Supreme Court will shift from a 4-3 conservative balance to a 4-3 liberal balance. And as we talked about, lots and lots and lots of implications here going forward. So we've got camera crews at both the Protasiewicz campaign and the Kelly campaign tonight. So they are jumping into action now to kind of give us those sights and sounds and see what's going on. But obviously a lot at stake here, and this is something that our experts talked about earlier today too. We had Brandon Schultz and others in to talk about on our earlier newscast, just the implications that this race holds. So I want to play a little bit of what they said, what's at stake here, as we wait for word from the Protasiewicz campaign, again, as the AP has just called this race for Janet Protasiewicz. So take a look. This is from earlier today.
Election results to come in. We're checking in with our local political experts.
Progressive strategist Matt Rothschild, Republican strategist Brandon Schultz joining us once again, as they often do on election night. Great to see you guys once again on an election night. It feels like we have one about every 3 weeks. Yeah. So much of this day, people are sitting around watching the Trump news out of New York City. This story came up on the networks as well, the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. Why is this getting so much national attention, Brandon?
This race for the Supreme Court, which is really the big race, lots of local races, but this is the most important race we've had in Wisconsin for the court in decades because it's all about the power. Whoever wins today wins the majority in the court, 4-3. Conservatives maintain it. They'll maintain what they've ruled on so far. If the liberals take the majority, the expectation is they will overturn a number of issues that are important to Democrat constituency, and that's what Janet Protasiewicz has done in her campaign by engaging in issues. So we'll see a high turnout, we'll see a lot of passion, a lot of intensity, and I'll let Matt take the lead on the money because it's his most favorite topic, but it's by far an unbelievable expensive race.
Yeah, the money's been insane. We're breaking all sorts of records, not just statewide records, but national records. The old record in Wisconsin was $10 million in a state Supreme Court race. We're now at $42 million, headed toward $50 million. And the national record is $15 million, so we're more than triple that. So it's really out of control, the money. On the issues, I think this abortion issue is still the crucial issue in Wisconsin. I think overturning Roe v. Wade has been a disaster for Republicans in Wisconsin. Certainly if Protasiewicz wins, that's one conclusion you can draw.
What will you be watching for tonight, and do you expect it to be a long night?
I don't think it's going to be a long night. I think Judge Protasiewicz is likely to win. I do want to encourage everyone to go out and vote, no matter who you're voting for. Our democracy works best when everyone votes, and the polls are still open till 8, so go vote. But I think she's got the advantage. She has the money advantage, not an astronomical one, about $5 million more than Kelly and his outside groups. But I think her campaign has really struck the issues that people care about on the progressive and Democratic side.
Brandon, about the same thoughts, or where are you at on this?
Same thoughts, but not in a good way. Typically in judicial races, you want to talk about the credentials of the candidates and being a justice, and they've always talked about, not legislating from the bench, the rule of law. We've never had a campaign like this where a candidate for justice on the Supreme Court said, this is where I stand on this issue, this is how I'm going to rule. Just think, if you're the opposing attorney, should you even show up and present your case to the court? I mean, what's the point? So this is a dramatic turn, and it will change all of our elections, nonpartisan elections, no more. And as Matt says, we're going to see a lot more money in this.
Great to have you guys on board tonight. We'll look forward to hearing more from you tonight in our later newscasts. Again, you can find everything you need to know about the election. Special section on the website. Just look for the election news and resources banner. Scroll down at channel3000.com. More information on the candidates and results for statewide and local races.
Again, if you're just joining us now, we are live streaming, but the Associated Press has called the Wisconsin Supreme Court race for Janet Protasiewicz very, very early, less than an hour before polls, or after polls closed. Less than 2/3 of the votes counted even, but the AP projecting that Janet Protasiewicz has built enough of a lead that it's insurmountable for Daniel Kelly to win this race. So we're going to have a lot of coverage over on the News 3 side, also Fox 47 at 9 starting just now. We have live crews over at those camps. But in the meantime, we're going to take a closer look at some of these results. So the New York Times has an interactive map showing where these vote breakdowns came from. And of course, you see specifically in Dane County, that's been the key for a lot of Democratic voters or Democratic-backed candidates in previous elections. And obviously this one, a nonpartisan race, but Janet Protasiewicz largely backed by the Democrats and Daniel Kelly largely backed by Republicans in the state. Dane County's really been the key. With Democrats running up the score there, so to speak, with the turnout there. And you see with 82% of the votes counted so far in Dane County, Janet Protasiewicz with 81% of those votes, and again, about 151,000 votes in Dane County. So that far surpasses the total that she had in the primary when she easily won Dane County as well. But also going to likely rival the amount of votes that Jill Karofsky had in 2020 in Dane County as well, when she faced off against Daniel Kelly and again beat him. So this will be back-to-back defeats for Daniel Kelly too, who was a sitting Supreme Court justice when he lost to Jill Karofsky in 2020. But it looks like Janet Protasiewicz well on her way to outpacing Jill Karofsky in Dane County. That's a big deal there as well. Popping over to Milwaukee County, 78% of those votes in, 70% of the votes for Janet Protasiewicz there, about 115,000 there. So again, the key for liberal candidates in the state has typically been run up the score, so to speak, in Milwaukee and Dane County, but also growing margins in places like Rock County, in the so-called WAW counties. Waukesha County has always been a stronghold for Republicans, but we saw this in November with the governor's race. Tim Michels didn't get the amount of votes there that he really needed to make up for the votes that Tony Evers got in Dane County and Milwaukee County. It looks like that's the case here again too. Daniel Kelly, only about 58% of the vote in Waukesha County, used to be a really strong Republican stronghold. In Washington County, again, about 2/3 of the vote, clear majority in that county, but again, not the numbers that he needs to kind of overcome the other statewide numbers coming in for Janet Protasiewicz. And again, in Ozaukee County, about 52%, look at that, 52% of the vote with 93% in, almost a dead heat in Ozaukee County. Janet Protasiewicz actually won this county in the February primaries with the two conservative candidates there, Kelly and Jennifer Darrow, kind of splitting the vote, but Janet Protasiewicz carried this county in the primaries, but you can see here about a 50-50 split. And really, Protasiewicz being able to kind of build up these margins across the state. Look at La Crosse County, another college county. UW-La Crosse up there has typically been a strong liberal stronghold. And again, 64% of the vote there, 80% in. So a lot to kind of take in when it comes to these numbers. And there's going to be a lot of debate in the coming days about where exactly this race went and how it turned out this way, because I think a lot of us were expecting a long night, a close race. Wisconsin statewide elections have typically been close races that haven't been decided until late at night many times, but this one has turned out differently, to say the least, with elections being called by the AP with an hour into vote counting, and just deeming that it's impossible for one candidate to come from behind to win this. So as I mentioned, we've got crews across the state at all these camps. So we've got a crew at the Protasiewicz rally in Milwaukee, as well as a crew at the Kelly rally in Green Lake. So I'm just going to pop around here. Understand that we're also starting our 9 p.m. newscast now, so you may see reporters in the shots, but I kind of want to give you a sense for what's going on in the rooms right now. So heading over first to the Protasiewicz campaign in Milwaukee. Here's a look there at the room. Obviously, people checking their phones, looking at all those results, that news just hitting their phones, everybody probably getting the push alerts fairly recently, but just standing by we have to assume, for Janet Protasiewicz to speak here, although it is still really early in the night. So we'll see what happens, and we'll stand by there and bring that to you when it comes. Popping over to the Kelly side, things seem to clear out in a hurry over there. Not a lot going on, but again, we'll see and stand by and see if former Justice Kelly decides to speak there. We've got our crews there standing by. They'll let us know if anybody is approaching the podium there. But I'll pop back over to the results now for a second, just to kind of go through again some of the other races that we've been following. So of course the Supreme Court race, not the only one on the ticket. We mentioned this District 8 race, still very tight, that could decide the supermajority in the state Senate. 82% of the votes counted in, but the Democratic candidate Jody Sinekin holding a very, very slim lead there. So that one might come down to the wire. We'll keep checking back on that throughout the night. Other things you had on your ballot, you had a few statewide ballot referendums that are kind of tied to legislation that would create a constitutional amendment that would change the way bail works in Wisconsin. So it looks like the AP has also called these ballot measures. So yes, winning for both of the bail reform referenda, so to speak. So one defining the conditions of release, and the other adjusting what can be considered when it comes to judges setting cash bail. So again, those two passing pretty overwhelmingly there, so up by about 2/3 votes as well. Popping down, City of Madison, obviously we're following the mayor's race here. Very early in the counting here, about 39% of the precincts reporting. 53% for Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway, and 47% for Gloria Reyes there. So we're going to keep refreshing this page, keep checking in here. But again, looking back at the primary here, we saw the mayor rack up about 60% of the votes in the primary when all was said and done. We'll see if numbers trend in that direction as more votes are being counted as well. A slew of council races going on too. So we've got all of these here that we can kind of fly through really quickly. Still too early on some of these, like 20% reporting. Hard to get a read on what's going to happen in those, but we'll continue to follow all of these as well. I want to point out too, at the top of our Channel 3000 election results page, as I mentioned, more than 100 races we're following. It's tough to scroll through all of them, so we've got these links that we can jump to different sections. So let's hop down to other mayoral races here. We've got about 40% of precincts reporting in the Fitchburg mayor race. Looks like Julia Arata-Frada up early there. Middleton Mayor Emily Kuhn with an early lead. Still nothing on our end from Monona Mayor and other races here, but you see we're also following village president races in Sherwood Hills, Waunakee, all the Madison area places. Again, we're going through some of these as we wait for some of the Supreme Court candidates to speak. Again, the AP projecting that Janet Protasiewicz will become the next Supreme Court justice in the state of Wisconsin. We're getting word we're about 5 minutes or so away from Justice Daniel Kelly speaking. So when that happens, we'll take that to you live. I'm hoping somebody will let me know when that's coming up live, and we'll take you there for that full speech in its entirety as we go through some of these other races as well. I'll give this page a refresh just to make sure we got the latest numbers here, but again, lots of reaction coming in on the Supreme Court race, eyes across the country on this one. And now we see about 64% of votes counted. Still a double-digit lead there for Janet Protasiewicz. So you can kind of see why the AP called the race at 8:53 p.m. already. And it looks like we've also got the AP calling the Court of Appeals race for Sarah Geenan. So Sarah Geenan will join the Wisconsin Court of Appeals in District 1 as well. That District 8 state Senate race still extremely, extremely close. Look at that, less than 1,000 votes separating the two right now, with 87% of the votes in as well. So let's hop down. I want to focus on some of the school referendum questions as we wait for Daniel Kelly to to appear. The Adams Friendship one was one that we covered. Obviously, we don't have results in for that one yet, but we're keeping a close eye on that because, as we've reported, that could decide whether or not the Adams Friendship School District will frankly exist. The administrators there have been very straightforward in saying, if we don't get this money, we're going to have to dissolve the school district. That's something that is a drastic measure, but they say they can't afford to keep the doors open, basically. So we're going to follow that one as well. This is a referendum. A very similar one had failed in the fall, so that kind of ratcheted up the pressure for this one in the spring to pass. If it doesn't pass, we'll have to see what happens there. But as I said, the administrator's very straightforward in that if this rural school district doesn't get the money from the community approved, it's going to have to shut its doors. A lot of other school referenda on the ballots. This is the time of year for school referenda and school board races, frankly. You see Cambridge Schools has one, 80% of precincts reporting. The yes on the operational needs one, slightly ahead, but again, just a few hundred votes deciding these. And that's the way some of these rural school referenda go, is very, very small handfuls of votes deciding very large amounts of money for a school district, and it just goes to show you that every vote really does count, especially in these races. Scrolling down here, we'll continue New Glarus Schools. Again, only 22% of precincts reporting there, but no ahead there as well. Poynette Schools about 50-50. Waterloo, again, no leading with only about a quarter of votes counted so far. We do have a contested Madison school board seat in District 6 right now. It looks like with more than 3/4 of the votes in, Blair Mosner ahead of Badri Lankela by about 12 percentage points there. So still too early to make a call on that one, but Blair Mosner with an early lead on the Madison school board contested race there. And again, other school board races coming in. So as we wait for the Supreme Court candidates to speak, again, I'll just hop back over to the map as more results come in across the county. But you see this block of Janet Protasiewicz support, not just in Dane County, but we've kind of seen this too sort of spread in the surrounding counties. You know, Sauk County, only 54% of votes in there, but Protasiewicz with a 16-point lead, 58% of the vote there so far. Richland County, Protasiewicz with an early lead there, only 3% in. As a small rural county, it'll take a little bit longer for them to count there, but popping up to Eau Claire, another, growing city, lots of young people moving there, has kind of seen a shift towards Democratic-backed candidates and liberal candidates in recent elections. Protasiewicz with 64% of the vote there, with more than 95% in. So that county is almost locked in there. And again, that's a huge margin for Janet Protasiewicz there. So you can kind of see in these large population centers, that's where Janet Protasiewicz did very, very well and allowed her to build this statewide lead. And again, when you look at the population centers that tend to be more red, those are where the margins didn't really happen for Daniel Kelly, just like it didn't happen for Tim Michels in November and other Republicans in statewide races recently. So again, we focused on Waukesha County earlier, 87% of the votes in there. Kelly clearly going to win in Waukesha County, but not by as much as he would have needed to really make up those deficits in Milwaukee County, for example, where Janet Protasiewicz got 70% of the vote there. That's really good. I'd have to check and see what Tony Evers did in Milwaukee County in November, but that's a threshold that's going to be very tough for any Republican to beat in a statewide race. Even going up to Green Bay in the Fox Valley in Brown County, only 35% of those votes in. Daniel Kelly with 58% of them so far. But again, that's a story of, even in these counties where he's leading, it's not by enough to really make up that difference that we're seeing in Milwaukee, and especially Dane County, where now we've got more than 95% of votes reporting in Dane County, and it's going to be more than 80% of the vote for Janet Protasiewicz. I mentioned earlier that Joe Karofsky really was able to cruise to a victory over Daniel Kelly in 2020, despite facing an incumbent state Supreme Court justice. But she had 159,000 votes in Dane County. Janet Protasiewicz is blowing that out of the water. She's got 177, close to 178,000 votes. Now, granted, population has really grown in Dane County in recent years, but it's that just growing number of voters who are engaged in this process too. Obviously we're seeing more and more turnout in Dane County, especially for these off-year elections, if you want to call them that, the non-presidential elections, where typically you'd be lucky to get 20 or 30% of the vote. Dane County has really blown that out of the water, and it's making Democrats and liberal-backed candidates very, very tough to beat on a statewide margin, and that's going to be a big challenge for Republicans to try to figure out, especially ahead of 2024 and some of those elections coming up as well. So as we continue to stand by for Daniel Kelly here, I'll pop his feed up over here. You see people still mingling around there, waiting for him to come, but we're told he's just minutes away from speaking. So of course we'll bring that to you live as that happens, and then checking in. I'm in the way of somebody speaking. I think it's Mark Pocan speaking at the Janet Protasiewicz campaign. So again, speakers taking the stage there as well. So I'll hop off for now and let you listen into what some of the surrogates, including Mark Pocan, are saying.
Out and about, we can all wait for another few minutes, right? And then we're going to celebrate together. So thank you all, and we'll have Janet here very, very soon. Take care.
All right, and that's the fun of doing things live. Mark Pocan getting off the stage, but saying we'll hear from Janet Protasiewicz very, very soon as well, as they continue to celebrate over at the Protasiewicz campaign. Popping back over to the Kelly campaign here, we are still standing by as well, waiting for him to arrive over on the stage, and it looks like we're looking around the room waiting for the entrances. And it looks like some people may be arriving here, so I will again duck out and allow you to listen in to Daniel Kelly speak here.
Good evening, everyone. Is the mic on? Well, I stand here tonight to introduce a very good and honorable man, Justice Daniel Kelly, but unfortunately, I have a message which is not what we were hoping and praying for tonight. Alexander Hamilton warned us centuries ago that we had nothing to fear from the judiciary unless it is joined with the legislative power. And now everybody in the state of Wisconsin has to fear that the judiciary has now been joined with the legislative. It appears that the candidate who ran a politicized race, who ran to advance a progressive agenda, funded 97% by out-of-state dollars, not by the people of Wisconsin, but by rich billionaires from New York and California. It appears that that is the person who will be joining the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The consequences for the state of Wisconsin will be very grave, because we will now have 4 people on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin who will take away the power of the people to rule themselves, to govern themselves through the legislature. And again, that is not what anybody in this room wanted, and I don't think it's what most of the people in Wisconsin wanted. And I have one more thing to say, that it was tens of millions of dollars that were spent to slander a good and honorable Christian man. And I know that all of you know that he is a good and honorable Christian man, and that the good people of Wisconsin did not believe those lies and rejected those lies as they should have. So again, I come with a message that is not what we wanted to hear, but I thank you all for being here. And it is truly my honor to introduce to you my good friend, my cherished colleague, Justice Daniel Kelly.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. It is lovely to see all of you, and it's lovely to see all of you behind the camera all across this beautiful state of Wisconsin. I want to start out by just telling you my deepest gratitude for everything that you've done. I've traveled this state talking about the difference between the rule of law and the rule of Janet, how important it is to conserve our constitutional heritage, and why it's so important that we keep that Constitution strong, because that's what protects our liberties. But all I did was have the great good fortune to have numerous conversations with the beautiful people of Wisconsin all over the state, and that was a joy and a blessing to me, and I thank you from the deepest parts of my heart for that. But you, what you did was phenomenal. You made this candidacy sing. You made this a beautiful thing to be a part of. Everywhere I went in Wisconsin, I saw people who were passionate about their Constitution and passionate about their liberties and about the future of this great state of Wisconsin. And I saw some of the most remarkable efforts that I have ever seen to promote and secure that future. And that inspired me like you would not believe. You might know that it is hard to do a statewide campaign. It takes an awful lot out of you, especially for an introvert like me. You know, even for an introvert, I drew so much inspiration and energy from all of you. I saw it in your eyes, how much you care. I saw it in your actions and all the doors that you knocked on, the thousands of phone calls that you made, the postcards that you wrote. And all I could do is say thank you. And it felt so inadequate. Because I wanted you to know so much more what this has meant, not just to me, but to my family, and for all those who care about the constitutional order. And all I had was those simple words, just thank you. Thank you. And even now, I don't know how to express my gratitude adequately. I'm just so grateful for all of you. Now, this didn't turn out the way that we were looking for. And I think there are a couple of reasons for it, and I think we need to address them head on. And it brings me no joy to say this. I wish that in a circumstance like this, I would be able to concede to a worthy opponent. But I do not have a worthy opponent to which I can concede. This was the most deeply deceitful, dishonorable, despicable campaign I have ever seen run for the courts. It was truly beneath contempt. Now, I say this not because we did not prevail. I do not say this because of the rancid slanders that were launched against me, although that was bad enough. But that is not my concern. My concern is the damage done to the institution of the court. My opponent is a serial liar. She's disregarded judicial ethics. She's demeaned the judiciary with her behavior. And this is the future that we have to look forward to in Wisconsin. I've been committed to the rule of law my entire career. I understand this to be the most fundamental, basic promise of civilization. And at its heart, it lives in the judiciary, and if not there, nowhere at all. We've had this laid out plainly for us. We could have the rule of law or the rule of Janet. And the people of Wisconsin have chosen the rule of Janet. Now, I respect that decision because it is theirs to make. As I've gone around this great state of ours, everywhere I've gone, I've reminded the people that all the power to create and maintain governments in this state belongs to them. And all the power to decide who sits in the seats created by their Constitution belongs to them. And I promised them that I would respect their decision in this race regardless of what it is. Because that is what a servant does. And so I respect the decision that the people of Wisconsin have made. But I think this does not end well. Now, as I look forward, I hope it does end well. This has been a beautiful, beautiful life here in Wisconsin with all of you. And I wish Wisconsin the best of luck, because I think it's going to need it. Thank you.
So there you hear former Justice Dan Kelly give his concession speech after the Associated Press declared that Janet Protasiewicz will become the next Wisconsin State Supreme Court Justice. Clearly, Dan Kelly not holding back on his feelings about the race, the way that it played out. He was very vocal throughout the entire campaign about what he thought about what he saw as Janet Protasiewicz running on issues, which is something that you don't typically see in a Supreme Court race. And he felt very strongly about that, even in his concession speech, as you hear there. As we kind of take a look at that watch party there, I'm going to pop us back to the election results page, just as we wait for Janet Protasiewicz to speak shortly here, from my understanding. So again, with about 72% of the votes counted now, Janet Protasiewicz with a 13% lead. Again, the Associated Press has already projected her the winner, made that call at 8:53 p.m., less than an hour after polls closed, just because at this point, a lot of election experts seeing the election map here that we've been looking at and not finding a path to victory for Dan Kelly, leading to that concession speech there, where again, we heard him very bluntly share what he thought about her, about the campaign, and the way things played out. We also heard from current Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley there, who's been acting as a surrogate, campaigning for him, hoping that he gets back on the court to join her in maintaining the conservative majority there. Now Rebecca Bradley and the rest of the conservatives on the court will go to a minority, at least for the next 2 years. That's when we have our next Wisconsin Supreme Court election, is just in 2 years. So there's a chance that could flip again, or potentially liberals could expand on that balance of power in the court. That makes this next 2 years extremely interesting to see how things play out in terms of abortion in the state, in terms of legislative district maps, things that were brought up in the Protasiewicz campaign. That again, Dan Kelly took great issue with, and you heard him kind of call the difference between what he thought to be the rule of law as opposed to what he kind of derisively called the rule of Janet during this campaign, and he repeated that refrain there. I'm seeing now that we're just a few minutes away from Janet Protasiewicz taking the stage after Dan Kelly conceded the race. So let's take a look at her campaign headquarters over in Milwaukee right now. We see in this live picture here people sort of gathering, waiting for the moment here, waiting for the candidate to come out and speak, but obviously a much more jovial mood than we saw with the Kelly campaign. We saw Mark Pocan, U.S. Congressman from the Madison area, speaking. Again, he's been one of her surrogates on the campaign trail, speaking earlier before we heard Dan Kelly speak, shortly after the AP called that race. So again, we will take you to that speech live as it happens, but popping the results back up in the meantime. A call much earlier in the race than maybe a lot of people expected, but as we started this live stream, I played some of our expert panel from News 3 Now at 5, and our panelists both thought there's a chance that this could be called very early, and they proved to be right. So there's obviously a few people that saw this coming. In the meantime, I'm also seeing now that we may be close to speeches in the Madison mayoral race. So let me see if I can pull up the Reyes campaign here as we do this live. So popping this up, this is a live feed from the Gloria Reyes campaign. They're over on the west side of Madison, on Junction Road there, following along with the results. But we heard that the Reyes campaign there getting ready possibly to speak as we look at some of the results starting to come in on that. At last check, Satya Rhodes-Conway, the current mayor, still leading in that race, but no call having been made just quite yet. Let me refresh our election page here to see if we have some updated numbers to share with you as we wait for Gloria Reyes or Satya Rhodes-Conway to come out and speak. So let's take a look at the numbers real quick here as I punch this up on the fly. In the Madison mayoral race here, obviously you see on the screen, with about 71% of precincts reporting, Satya Rhodes-Conway with a 55% lead, or 55% of the vote, I should say, about a 10% lead over Gloria Reyes. Again, we go back to the primary. Satya Rhodes-Conway carried about 60% of the vote there. That's roughly the same margin she won by when she won election against former Mayor Paul Soglin 4 years ago as well. So that seems to be, that 55 to 60% mark, kind of her baseline of support in the city there. So as I pop things back over to the Reyes camp, they are there just kind of awaiting her to speak. You see people still gathered there as well. And so we'll take you there live once things start happening as well. But in the meantime, let's go back to the Protasiewicz campaign as we got some surrogates speaking here to introduce her. So I'll step out again and let you guys listen in.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we needed somebody whose name we could spell. We needed somebody whose name we could pronounce. Come on, y'all. Let's say it all together, her last name. 1, 2, 3. Protasiewicz! When I went out into the community, all sectors of the community, and people could say Janet Protasiewicz, I knew we had won. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me introduce someone to you who, like Shirley Chisholm, is unbought and unbossed. The next Justice of the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, Janet Protasiewicz.
Can you hold it?
We love you, Janet. We love you.
Well, Wisconsin, guess what? We did it. We did it. I want to thank all of you for being here this evening to celebrate this wonderful victory. Today's results have been over a year in the making. I've been traveling this entire state for the last year. I could not have done it without the hard work and dedication of all of you right here in this room. Just over a year ago, I got into this race. I made the decision because I saw that Wisconsinites were ready for common sense and fairness on their Supreme Court. Thank you, Kathy. They were ready to put aside the partisanship and put aside the extremism and to have an impartial court, and a court that makes decisions based on the law, not on a political agenda. Look at you, Sue, not in blue. My career and my community has really prepared me for this evening tonight. I was born and raised nearby on the south side of Milwaukee to hardworking parents. I went to UWM on the U bus. I went to Marquette Law School and I worked my way through college. As a waitress, guess where? None other than Mark's home of the Big Boy, Point Loomis. Throughout my career, I've seen our judicial system up close. And I believe in something that is universal to Wisconsinites all across our state. And that is that everyone should get a fair shot to demand justice and not feel like the thumb is on the scale against them. I care deeply about this state. It has been my home my entire life. And I care deeply about all of you, the people of the state of Wisconsin. You are the only client I have ever served throughout my 35-year career in the law. I love you all! I knew that the people of Wisconsin expected, and deserved more from their Supreme Court. Of course, I want to thank all of the volunteers and supporters in every corner of Wisconsin. And I've been to every corner of Wisconsin. And you have made today's victory possible. From the thousands of door knocks, and I know you've done door knocks, to the phone calls, to the conversations with your friends and neighbors, and all of your efforts to get out the vote, they were all worth it and proved just how unstoppable our campaign was. I want to thank my incredible staff, led by my campaign manager, Alejandro Verdeen. Alejandro, are you here?
Thank you, King. Thank you, King. Thank you, Alex.
And my incredible general consultant, Patrick, where are you? Patrick Rossi. It is risky when you thank the rest of your staff because we have quite a large staff, because you're fearful you're going to miss someone, but I'm going to try anyway. Where's Sam Recker? Sam? Straight ahead? Sam Recker is utterly amazing. He's our communications director. Where's Sam Langheim? Sam was the finance director. Sam gets tired of me telling this story, but I'd say about a month ago, we started in Milwaukee. Then we did 2 stops, and we had this rented Suburban that didn't, have windshield wiper fluid in it. And I was running a little low on gas. And then we did 2 stops in Madison. And then we drove to Hudson. And then we drove to Rice Lake, Jane Carroll. And then we drove to Superior. And by the time we get to Superior, Sam said, "I've had it." And I said, "Okay, give me the keys to that Suburban. I'm going to go out and get a bite to eat." Well, I couldn't see. The vehicle had no gas. The next thing I knew, I was on a big bridge, and I was in Duluth, Minnesota. And I called Sam, and I said, "We have a problem." And he said, "Did you crack up the car?" I said, "No." He's like, "Well, then it's not that bad." I said, "Well, you need to Uber out here and drive me back." And he did with no complaints. He's been wonderful. There's Sam. Where's Marshall? Marshall Cohen. Marshall's amazing. He was with me 10 years ago. He's in Washington, D.C. now. He's been helping me. A mastermind, a political mastermind who helped with the messaging and any political questions I ever had. Sachin, are you in here? Sachin Cheda. We had field organizers all over the state. Best of the best was Simon. You probably got all sorts of text messages from us asking you to do things for us. You can thank Jacob right over here for all of those. Jacob and Neil. I would be remiss if I failed to mention Julia and Joyce and Carly and Allison and Jackie and Morgan, who must think I'm 22 years old with the schedule that she set up for me, that she did all of that. And then the brains behind our television commercials. Ben Knuckles, where are you? Ben Knuckles. So it was quite a team. I cannot imagine that we could have had a better team to weather this campaign. I also want to thank my wonderful husband, Greg. by my side through the ups and downs of this campaign. His name's not Randy Nass.
All right. As Janet Protasiewicz continues to thank folks on her campaign, I do want to break in here because it appears that Satya Rhodes-Conway has been reelected as mayor of Madison. So we're going to hop over to her speech right now and take it to you live.
Before I go any farther, I have to thank my partner, Amy. She's hiding in the back. For all of her support, for cooking and cleaning and being patient with my schedule and helping me keep working for the city of Madison every day. I couldn't do it without you, babe. I want to thank my campaign manager, Alec, and everybody who volunteered, who canvassed, who did events for me, everybody who endorsed my re-election campaign. Thank you all. You were all a part of it. I'm really proud of the work that we've done over the past 4 years, and I am absolutely committed to working for our community for the next 4. We're going to continue to prioritize public safety, housing, fighting the climate crisis, equitable economic development, and investing in our young people. I'm looking forward to using the new South Madison TIF district to invest in home ownership and economic development, to building the state's first purpose-built homeless shelters in our community, to better connect folks with housing. I'm looking forward to working with the school district. Thank you, Ali, for being here, to support our young people and to hire a new superintendent. I'm looking forward to expanding the Madison Cares program and to supporting the county's efforts to build a new triage center for folks experiencing mental health crises in our community. I want to thank all of the dedicated city staff who work every single day to make Madison a better place. All of these policies and programs are possible because of the work that they do day in and day out for our city, and they deserve a lot of credit and thanks for the work they've done over the past year. There's a lot of work to be done still to face the challenges of our growing city and the opportunities that abound in Madison, and I'm really excited to do that work. And I'm so excited to do this work in a new political climate in the state of Wisconsin. So many more things are possible because of the work that people did on the grassroots all across the state, getting out, knocking on doors, talking to their friends, and turning out the vote tonight. And I am so grateful, so incredibly grateful to everybody who did that work to help Justice Janet win. So tonight, we celebrate, have a great time, and tomorrow, we get back to work. Thank you all so much.
All right. You just listened to Satya Rhodes-Conway declare victory in the city of Madison race, saying that her challenger, Gloria Reyes, called her to concede. Our crews there at the Gloria Reyes campaign basically said in her speech that while she's disappointed with the outcome, she does not consider it a loss. With Gloria Reyes adding she was not supposed to make it this far, considering significant barriers that life threw at her, but she still remained determined and resilient to ensure the hard work of her parents was not in vain. So Satya Rhodes-Conway will serve another 4 years as Madison mayor, and as you heard her say there, things will look a little bit different at the state level compared to at least the first 4 years of her term, and at least for the next couple of years, as Janet Protasiewicz will join the Supreme Court and shifts the balance of power in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So we're taking a look at the results right now with about 71% of precincts reporting on our end, 55% for Satya Rhodes-Conway there. This, again, seemingly another situation where the Reyes camp found that there's just no pathway to victory. So they called the mayor's office to concede that race. We heard from both of them there. As you see, our news team is very busy getting ready for the 10 o'clock news right now. So as these results come in, I'll just pop through a few of them to kind of recap before we get off of this live stream and begin News 3 Now at 10. Covering all those election results at 10, as well as the threat of severe weather in our area. Gary has the latest on that, so you'll want to tune in to that as well. But again, the headline news of the night, Janet Protasiewicz declared the winner in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race very shortly after the polls closed, less than an hour after the polls closed. And you see now about 3/4 of the votes counted. She's still got a 10% lead over Danielle Kelly. So you see why Danielle Kelly called to concede that race as well. Looking at the Court of Appeals, Sarah Geenan will take a seat on the Wisconsin State Court of Appeals. This Senate 8 district race, as we talked about earlier, very important when it comes to the makeup of the state Senate. This result has kind of flipped back and forth a couple of times since the last time we looked at it. Now with 93% of the votes counted, Dan Knodel very slimly on top by, again, you see less than 1,000 votes separating these two candidates, 93% of the votes in. So this is going to come down to the wire. And again, this has great implications for what the next session of Senate could look like, given the fact that a Republican win here could give them the power to impeach certain people. They've also broached the topic of possibly impeaching Janet Protasiewicz for the way the campaign went down. So that's a very important race that we're going to continue to follow there. As we mentioned earlier, all of the ballot amendments on the statewide level that you had on your ballot all easily passed with about 2/3 of the vote there, defining conditions for the defining conditions of release and cash bail considerations that judges can make, as well as a welfare benefit requirements ballot measure there as well. As we mentioned, City of Madison, Satya Rhodes-Conway, not quite official yet. The votes are still being counted, but Gloria Reyes has conceded in that race. Satya Rhodes-Conway will serve another 4 years as Madison's mayor. Looking at some of these council district seats, again, a slew of them up this term here. Juliana Bennett up in District 2 looks well on her way to winning there. Derek Field in District 3. In District 4 downtown, we have Michael Verveer, the incumbent, with about 53% of the votes so far. That one a very close race. District 6, Marsha Rummel up with about 2/3 of precincts reporting. Another very close race in District 8 here, just a couple percentage points with about 30% left. Some of these races still not reporting results because those are the wards in the City of Madison that have not yet reported their results. So these will continue to keep coming in as those results are reported to the county clerk. As we continue to scroll through all these Madison Council races, as we mentioned too, other mayor races, 100% of precincts reporting in Fitchburg. It looks like Julia Arata Frado will be the next mayor of Fitchburg there with 54% of the vote, defeating Randy Udell. In Middleton, 25% still only reporting there, but Emily Kuhn with an early lead in terms of vote counting there as well. Over in Monona, 50%, halfway done. We've got Mary O'Connor with a short lead over Christy Goforth, and also 100% reporting in Shorewood Hills. John Imes will be the village president there. In Wanakee, a closer race, but Kristen Rung will be the village president in Wanakee as well. Again, all these races available on channel3000.com. Go to our homepage. You'll find the election results button there on the homepage. Click there. We're following more than 100 races this go around. So just about every corner of our viewing area in southern Wisconsin and those statewide results as well. Aside from all the village president races and council seats, we've also got school board races. We've got school referendum questions to go through. We've got those sections all highlighted for you at the top of this page. All you got to do is click on the link for the section you want to go to. So school referendum questions. Again, some of these smaller districts will take a while to report the results tonight. You see some starting to come in for the bigger cities like Beloit here, but we've got all those referendum stories that we've been tracking in the weeks leading up to the election. You're going to find those results there later tonight. School board races, 'tis the season for that. Again, we highlighted the Madison School Board seat number 6, the contested race there. Blair Mosner, 56% of the vote with 76% of precincts reporting there. Various school board races across the area. So if you're in a municipality, a town, village, city where you have a school board race and you want to see where those results ended up, channel3000.com is the place to go. In the meantime, we're going to wrap things up here. Get ready for News 3 Now at 10. We're going to have live reports from all across the state. As I mentioned earlier, we've got live reporters at the Protasiewicz campaign in Milwaukee. We have a live report at the Kelly campaign in Green Lake. We've got reporters at both Madison mayor camps as well tonight. You're going to hear from all of them, hear what they had to say. So if you missed it on the live stream here, watch News 3 Now at 10. We have those sound bites selected for you. You're also going to be able to go back and watch this live stream later if you want to hear what Justice Dan Kelly or Janet Protasiewicz had to say after that race was called. So that'll do it for here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, go to channel3000.com. Those results will keep coming in automatically overnight. So if the race that you're looking for isn't there right now, keep checking, keep refreshing. They'll be there eventually. In the meantime, we will sign off here, and you will be able to watch News 3 Now at 10 over on Channel 3000 Plus and channel3000.com at the top of the hour. So tune in then for more recap and coverage. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Need emergency weather alerts before conditions turn bad? Download the First Warn Weather app right now. Turn on notifications and I'll alert you when severe weather threatens. The First Warn Weather app. Get it now.
Powered by News 3 Now.